I've been designing websites for 8 years now. Nothing fancy, small businesses, local restaurants, the occasional online store. The pay varies, but I make it work. My 2012 Toyota runs fine. My apartment in the older part of town is clean and quiet, and I've got enough saved up that I don't lose sleep over next month's rent. Most people see a freelancer scraping by. That's fine with me. 3 years ago, I met Emma's father at a tech conference in Seattle. His company, a cloud security startup, was hemorrhaging money. Brilliant concept, terrible execution. Over drinks, he laid out the whole disaster. Burned through series of funding. Key clients walking, board members getting nervous. He wasn't asking for help, just venting to a stranger. I listened, asked a few questions, gave him my card. 2 weeks later, he called. Desperate. The company had maybe 2 months before it collapsed completely. I reviewed everything: finances, product roadmap, market positioning. Then I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. I'd inject enough capital to keep things afloat and help restructure operations. In exchange, I wanted 40% equity and complete anonymity. No board seat, no public acknowledgement, no questions about where my money came from. He agreed in under an hour. I brought in the right people, cut the dead weight, and redirected their product focus. Within 18 months, the company went from dying to thriving. Revenue tripled. They landed 2 Fortune 500 contracts. Emma's father became a hero in the tech community, and nobody knew I existed. I met Emma 6 months after saving her father's company. Mutual friends, backyard barbecue, nothing orchestrated. She was funny, genuine, and refreshingly unimpressed by startup culture despite growing up around it. We talked for 3 hours about terrible movies and whether breakfast food is acceptable for dinner. I asked her out the next day. She knew me as the freelance web designer. That's all I told her, because that's all she needed to know. The relationship grew naturally. No pretense, no performance. When I proposed last month, it felt right. The engagement party was her father's idea. Nothing too big, Emma insisted, but her parents rented out a private room at one of those restaurants where they don't list prices on the menu. I wore my best shirt, which, granted, still looked modest compared to everyone else's tailored suits. I didn't care. I was marrying Emma, not her family's tax bracket. The party was exactly what I expected. Emma's mother kept introducing me as Emma's fiancé who works in computers, said with the same tone someone might use for works in sanitation. Her brother asked 3 times what my long-term career plans were. Friends from her father's business circle made polite small talk, then gravitated back toward people who mattered. Emma stayed close, holding my hand, whispering apologies I didn't need. She loved me. That's what counted. 2 hours in, her father approached. Mr. Stewart. Always Mr. Never just the first name, even after 3 years of dating his daughter. Got a minute? He gestured toward the hallway with his scotch glass. Something I'd like to discuss privately. Emma squeezed my hand. Dad, can it wait? Business matter. He smiled, but his eyes stayed cold. Won't take long. I kissed Emma's forehead. I'll be right back. We walked past the main dining room, down a quieter hallway, into what looked like a private office the restaurant kept for exactly these kinds of conversations. Mr. Stewart closed the door, set his drink on the desk, and turned to face me. He didn't sit. Power move. I'd seen it 1,000 times in business meetings. You seem like a decent guy, he started, voice steady and practiced. Emma clearly cares about you, but I'm going to be direct because that's how I operate. I waited. My daughter deserves stability, security, a partner who can provide the lifestyle she's accustomed to. He paused, letting that sink in. Freelance work is unpredictable. You're renting, driving a 12-year-old car. No offense, but you're not exactly positioned for the future Emma should have. I kept my face neutral. Emma seems happy. She's young. She doesn't understand what she's signing up for. Struggling financially, worrying about health insurance, wondering if her husband's next client will actually pay on time. He shook his head slowly. That's not the life I want for her. With respect, that's her choice to make. Is it? He picked up his drink, swirled it once. Here's what I'm proposing. I write you a check for $200,000. Cash. You walk away cleanly. Tell Emma you realize the timing isn't right, whatever story works. She'll be hurt temporarily, but she'll recover. And you'll have enough money to genuinely build something stable, start a proper business, buy a house, whatever you want. The room felt smaller suddenly, not because of the offer itself, but because of how casually he'd said it. Like this was a normal Tuesday transaction. Buy out the unsuitable boyfriend, problem solved. You're asking me to take money to leave your daughter. I'm offering you an opportunity. He set the glass down with a deliberate clink. $200,000 is more than you'd make in 3 years of freelancing. It's a smart business decision. I looked at him for a long moment. This man whose company I'd saved, whose reputation I'd helped rebuild, who had no idea he was talking to his largest shareholder. What exactly bothers you most? I asked quietly. The car? The apartment? The work itself? All of it. He didn't hesitate. Emma grew up with certain expectations. Country club memberships, private schools for her future kids, vacations that don't involve budget airlines. Can you provide that on inconsistent freelance income? Maybe I understand business better than you think. He actually laughed. Short, dismissive. I've been building companies for 20 years. No offense, but creating websites isn't the same as running a successful enterprise. I almost told him right there. Almost laid out every decision I'd made that kept his company alive. Every late night reviewing financial reports. Every strategic pivot I'd recommended through carefully worded anonymous memos. Every fire I'd helped extinguish while he took credit in board meetings. Instead, I said, "You're giving me 48 hours to decide? That's generous, considering." He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. "I'll have my assistant prepare the paperwork. Clean, simple agreement. You leave, you get paid, everyone moves forward. And if I say no?" His expression hardened just slightly. "Then I hope you're prepared for a very long engagement while Emma figures out what she's actually getting into. These things have a way of revealing themselves over time." He opened the door, stepped into the hallway. The noise from the party drifted in. Laughter, clinking glasses, the sound of people who'd never had to choose between dignity and money. "Think about it," he said over his shoulder. $200,000. That's not an insult. That's an opportunity most people would kill for. I stood alone in that office for a full minute after he left, staring at the empty desk where he'd set his Scotch glass. The condensation ring was still there, a perfect circle on the polished wood. This man thought he could buy me out. Thought I was desperate enough, small enough, insignificant enough to accept his money and disappear from his daughter's life. He had no idea what he'd just done. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to a number I hadn't called in months, and typed a brief message. "Need to schedule a meeting. Soon." Regarding Stuart Tech's situation. The response came in under 30 seconds. "Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. My office." I slipped the phone back in my pocket and returned to the party. Emma spotted me immediately, worry etched on her face. "Everything okay? What did my dad want?" I pulled her close, kissed her temple. "Just business talk. Nothing important." She relaxed against me. "He didn't grill you about career plans again, did he?" Something like that. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Don't worry about it." The rest of the party blurred together. I made the right sounds, shook the right hands, smiled at the right jokes. But my mind was already elsewhere, already planning. Mr. Stewart had made a critical mistake tonight. He'd shown me exactly who he was. And more importantly, he'd given me 48 hours to decide how much truth he could handle. I was going to make very good use of that time. I drove home that night with Emma beside me, her head resting against the window. She'd had 3 glasses of wine and was pleasantly tired, talking about how her college roommate had promised to help with wedding planning. "Did you like the venue my mom suggested?" she asked, half asleep. "It's nice." I kept my eyes on the road. "Little expensive, though. Don't worry about that. My parents insist on paying for everything." She reached over, squeezed my hand. "They really do care about us, you know? My dad can be intense sometimes, but his heart's in the right place." I said nothing. Let her believe what she needed to believe. After dropping her off at her apartment, she'd wanted to stay at her place tonight to be closer to brunch plans with her mother tomorrow. I headed back to my own place. The building was quiet this late, just the hum of old heating pipes and distant traffic. Inside, I pulled out my laptop and opened files I hadn't touched in months. Financial reports, equity agreements, strategic recommendations I'd sent through encrypted channels. 3 years of work, all documented, all signed. Stewart Tech Solutions. Current valuation, $42 million. My 40% stake, approximately $16.8 million. Mr. Stewart thought $200,000 was generous. I almost laughed. The meeting tomorrow would be with Vincent Pope, the the corporate attorney who'd structured the original investment deal. He was one of 3 people who knew my actual involvement. The other 2 were the CFO I'd personally hired and an independent auditor who verified the books quarterly. All 3 were loyal to the company's success, not to Mr. Stewart's ego. I drafted an email, encrypted it, sent it off. Then I sat back and thought about Emma, about the conversation we'd need to have, about whether she'd stand by me or stand by her father when everything came out. That was the test I hadn't wanted to run. But Mr. Stewart had forced my hand. My phone buzzed. Emma, thank you for being so patient with my family tonight. I love you. I stared at those words for a long time before responding. Love you too. Sleep well. The next morning, I arrived at Pope's office building downtown at 8:45. The firm occupied 3 floors of a glass tower, the kind of place where even the receptionists wore designer suits. Vincent met me in the lobby personally. Mid-50s, silver hair, handshake like a vice grip. Good to see you. Conference room's ready. We rode the elevator in silence. Inside the conference room, he'd already pulled the files, thick folders documenting every transaction, every decision, every dollar I'd moved to save Stewart Tech. You want to go public? He asked, settling into his chair. Not exactly. I explained what had happened at the engagement party, the offer, the dismissive attitude, the 48-hour deadline. Vincent's expression never changed, but I caught the slight tightening around his eyes. He'd been practicing law for 30 years. He'd seen this movie before. Mr. Stewart doesn't know you're his primary investor, he said slowly. Never asked questions about where the money came from. Never requested meetings. Never even wondered who signed off on major restructuring decisions. He was too desperate to ask questions, and too proud to admit he didn't save his own company. What's your play here? I leaned forward. There's a quarterly board meeting scheduled for next week, right? Strategic planning session, performance review, the whole thing. Thursday afternoon. What? I want to attend. Officially. As the primary stakeholder I actually am. Vincent was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled out his phone, made 2 quick calls. One to the CFO, one to the board secretary. Brief, professional conversations. When he finished, he looked at me with something that might have been respect. You're scheduled to present the quarterly financial overview as a special guest consultant. The board knows you're coming, but not who you are. Mr. Stewart will be in attendance, along with 2 other board members and key executives. He paused. This is going to detonate his entire worldview. I know. What about Emma? That was the question I'd been avoiding. I need to tell her about her father's offer first. Before the meeting, she deserves to know what he tried to do. And if she sides with him, then I'll know where we stand. I stood, gathered my jacket. Either way, the truth comes out Thursday. Prepare the documentation. I want every investment, every decision, every meeting note that proves I'm the reason Stewart Tech still exists. Consider it done. Vincent stood as well, extended his hand. For what it's worth, I've watched a lot of wealthy people treat good people like disposable assets. It's satisfying when someone finally pushes back. I left his office with a plan and a timeline. For days until the board meeting. For days to see if my relationship survived honesty. That evening, I asked Emma to meet me at the park near her apartment. Neutral ground, public enough to stay calm, private enough to talk freely. She arrived wearing jeans and a sweater, looking concerned. You sounded serious on the phone, she said, sitting beside me on the bench. Is everything okay? I need to tell you something about last night. I took a breath. When your father pulled me aside, it wasn't just business talk. She waited, worry creeping into her expression. He offered me $200,000 to break up with you and disappear from your life. The words hung there like smoke. Emma stared at me, processing, trying to determine if I was joking. When she realized I wasn't, her face went pale. He what? Said you deserve someone more stable, someone established. He gave me 48 hours to take the money and walk away. She stood abruptly, hands shaking. That's insane. He wouldn't. But I could see her mind working, remembering every pointed comment her father had made over the past year. Every question about my income, my plans, my car. The way he introduced me at parties. The careful distance he maintained. She pulled out her phone. What are you doing? I asked. Calling him. This is completely unacceptable. Her voice shook with anger. How dare he try to buy you off like you're some kind of problem to solve? She dialed. Put it on speaker. I heard it ring 3 times before Mr. Stewart answered, voice cheerful. Emma, sweetheart. What's up? Did you offer my fiancé money to leave me? Silence. Then, he told you about our conversation. Answer the question, Dad. Did you try to pay him to break up with me? Emma, listen. I know you're upset, but you need to understand, Dash. $200,000. Yes or no? Another pause. Yes, but it wasn't what you think. I was trying to help both of you see clearly, Dash. Help? Her voice cracked. You tried to bribe the man I love to abandon me, and you think that's helping? You're not thinking long-term. This man doesn't have the resources to give you the life you deserve. I was offering him a chance to build something legitimate, Dash. Stop. She was crying now, angry tears. Just stop talking. Emma, Dash. She hung up, stood there breathing hard, phone clutched in her hand. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were red but furious. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I had no idea he would do something like this. I stood, pulled her into a hug. She buried her face in my chest, shoulders shaking. This was the moment. The moment I could tell her everything. About the investment. About saving her father's company. About being the silent partner who'd built the foundation of their family's current success. But something stopped me. Some instinct that said, not yet. Let's see what happens next. It's not your fault, I said quietly. But I need to know something. When you called him just now, you defended me. But if it came down to choosing between your family and me, where would you stand? She pulled back, looked up at me with confusion and hurt. Why would you even ask that? Because your father just showed me he's willing to go to extreme lengths to get what he wants. And I need to know if you're strong enough to stand against that if you have to. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, voice small, he's my father. I love him. But what he did was wrong. Notice what she didn't say. She didn't say she'd choose me. Didn't say she'd stand firm no matter what. Just that he was wrong, which wasn't the same as saying she'd oppose him. I saw the truth then. Emma loved me, but her family, their approval, their world, that was woven too deep. She'd fight for me up to a point, but when it truly mattered, she'd hesitate. She'd look for compromise. She'd try to make everyone happy, and that wasn't enough. I love you, I said, and meant it. But this isn't over. Your father made his position clear, and I need to think about what that means for us. Please don't let him win. She gripped my arms. Don't walk away just because he's being impossible. I'm not walking away, but I'm not pretending this didn't happen either. I kissed her forehead. I need a few days to figure out my next move. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Okay, just don't shut me out completely. I won't. But as I drove home that night, I knew the clock was ticking. Thursday would change everything. The question was whether Emma would still be standing beside me when the dust settled, or whether she'd retreat to the safety of her father's world, where everything made sense and nobody challenged the established order. Either way, Mr. Stewart was about to learn a very expensive lesson about judging people by their cars and their apartments. I had 4 days to prepare, and I intended to make every single one of them count. The next 3 days were careful choreography. I kept things normal with Emma, while Vincent Pope compiled 3 years of documentation. Every wire transfer, every strategic decision, every memo that proved I'd saved Stewart Tech. Wednesday afternoon, Emma called. My dad wants dinner tomorrow night. Just us 3. He wants to apologize properly. The board meeting was Thursday at 2. Dinner at 7. Perfect timing. What time? I asked. 7. That Italian place downtown. I'll be there. Thursday morning, I dressed differently. Tailored suit I'd kept hidden. Expensive watch. The version of myself Emma had never seen. I arrived at Stewart Tech at 1:30. Vincent and Judith Weber, the CFO I'd hired 3 years ago, were waiting. We entered the conference room where 2 other board members sat. Mr. Stewart arrived at 2 exactly. Confident. Then he saw me and froze. What's he doing here? Guest presenter, Vincent said calmly. Quarterly financial overview. I didn't authorize this. One board member, Jefferson, leaned forward. We all approved it. Unanimously. Your primary investor requested full transparency. My primary investor is a venture capital firm Dash. Is actually me, I said quietly. I saved your company 3 years ago. I own 40% of Stewart Tech. I made the decisions that rebuilt this place while you took credit. Complete silence. Mr. Stewart stared. That's impossible. You're a freelance Dash. Web designer with an old car and a rented apartment. Yes. I'm also an angel investor with placements in 17 companies. This is my largest investment. Judith pulled up the first slide. The company 3 years ago. Bankrupt, desperate, collapsing. Remember Seattle? The tech conference where you told a stranger your disasters because you were drunk and out of options? That was me. His face went pale. I offered help under specific conditions. Anonymity, equity, strategic control. The next slide showed his signature on our agreement. You agreed because you had no choice. I walked through everything. For $0.2 million in capital. The restructuring. The Fortune 500 contracts. Every decision that saved him. Every major move came from me or people I brought in. You implemented them. Took the credit. Built your reputation. I advanced to the final slide, current valuation. My 40% stake is worth $16.8 million. I made you a multimillionaire. I paused, looked directly at him. Monday night, you offered me $200,000 to leave your daughter. Said I wasn't good enough. Not established enough. You judged me by surface appearances and never looked deeper. The board members exchanged glances. You assumed I was exactly what I seemed. I gestured at the screen. You were completely wrong. Mr. Stewart sat heavily. You're engaged to my daughter. I met Emma 6 months after saving your company. Random barbecue. I didn't seek her out. Fell for her because she's genuine and kind. The fact she's your daughter was a complication I tried to ignore. Can verify, Judith said. Timeline checks out. Completely separate. Jefferson spoke. What's your endgame? An apology. Genuine. Because he needs to understand you don't judge people by appearances. You don't buy your way out of problems. And you don't disrespect the man who saved everything you have. Mr. Stewart was quiet. Then, I didn't know. You didn't ask. Made assumptions and acted on them. I closed my laptop. I stayed silent for 3 years. Let you take credit. But when you tried to buy me out of your daughter's life, you crossed a line. Does Emma know? She knows about the bribe. Not this. Yet. That's tonight's conversation. 7 o'clock. The dinner you scheduled to apologize properly. His eyes widened. Gentlemen, I'm not disrupting operations. Company's successful. I have no interest in a public role. I just needed Mr. Stewart to understand who he's been dealing with. Jefferson nodded. Understood. Appreciated. I gathered my materials. Before leaving, I turned back. 7 o'clock. You'll have the opportunity to apologize, not just for the bribe, but for 3 years of dismissive assumptions. Whether you take it or double down is up to you. I left him there with board members who now knew the truth. Vincent spoke in the elevator. Brutally efficient. He needed witnesses. Made it undeniable. What about Emma? I checked my watch. 4:30. I'm about to find out if she loves me or just the version that fits her world. My phone buzzed. Emma, still on for tonight? I typed back, wouldn't miss it. 2.5 hours until the most important conversation of my life. I arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes early. Claimed a corner table with good visibility. Ordered water and waited. Emma showed up at 6:55, wearing a navy dress and nervous energy. She kissed my cheek, sat across from me. Thanks for doing this, she said. I know it's awkward, but I think it'll help. We'll see. 7 o'clock came and went. 7:15. Emma checked her phone twice, texted her father. No response. At 7:20, he walked in. Slower than usual. Older somehow. He spotted us. Approached the table like a man heading to sentencing. Emma. Sorry I'm late. He sat down heavily, didn't look at me. The waiter appeared. We ordered automatically, going through motions. When he left, silence settled over the table like fog. Emma broke it. Dad, you wanted to apologize. He cleared his throat. Yes. About Monday night. The offer I made was inappropriate. I shouldn't have approached the situation that way. Careful words. Lawyer words. Not an actual apology. Approach the situation? I repeated. You tried to bribe me to abandon your daughter. I was trying to provide a solution to a problem that didn't exist. I leaned forward slightly. Except now there is a problem. Want to tell Emma what happened this afternoon? His jaw tightened. That's not relevant to Dash. What happened this afternoon? Emma looked between us, confused. I kept my eyes on her father. Your dad had a board meeting today. Quarterly review. I was there as a guest presenter. Emma frowned. You were? Why would you Dash? Because I'm the primary investor in Stewart Tech. I own 40% of the company. I'm the person who saved it from bankruptcy 3 years ago with $4 million and strategic restructuring. Your father has spent 3 years taking credit for decisions I made. She stared at me. What are you talking about? Seattle Tech Conference. Your father got drunk, told me his disasters. I offered to help anonymously. Saved his company, his reputation, his career. And Monday night, he offered me $200,000 to leave you because I wasn't established enough. The color drained from Emma's face. Dad, is this true? Mr. Stewart said nothing for a long moment. Then, I didn't know who he was. That's not an answer. Her voice shook. Did he save your company? Yes. Is he your largest investor? Yes. And you offered him money to break up with me anyway? I thought She stopped. Started again. I made assumptions based on appearances. I was wrong. Emma turned to me. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted our relationship to be separate from business, from money, from your family's world. I wanted you to know me as just me. But you're not just you. You're she gestured helplessly. I don't even know what you are. I'm the same person you fell in love with. I just have more money than you thought. That's not a small detail. It wasn't relevant until your father made it relevant. Mr. Stewart spoke quietly. I was trying to protect you. From what? Emma's voice rose. From someone who saved your entire career? From someone who's been helping you for 3 years while you insulted him? From uncertainty, financial instability, the struggles I went through building my first company. He's a millionaire, Dad. He's more financially stable than we are. I didn't know that. Because you never asked. Never bothered to look past his car and his apartment. She stood abruptly. I need air. She walked toward the restroom. I watched her go, then turned back to Mr. Stewart. Your daughter just realized her father is exactly the kind of person she was raised to look down on, I said quietly. Someone who judges worth by appearances, makes assumptions without facts, uses money to solve problems instead of addressing them honestly. I made a mistake. You made several. The question is whether you've actually learned anything or you're just embarrassed you were wrong. He met my eyes finally. I underestimated you completely. I apologize. Keep going. I disrespected you. Insulted you, tried to buy you off like you were disposable, and I did it to the man who saved everything I've built. His voice cracked slightly. I was arrogant and foolish, and I'm genuinely sorry. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Thank you, I said. But the person you really need to apologize to is Emma. She's the one caught between her father's judgment and her own heart. Emma returned, eyes red. She sat down, looked at both of us. I need time to think, she said. About everything. About us. About what this means. About whether I even know who either of you are anymore. I nodded. That's fair. Mr. Stewart reached for her hand. She didn't pull away but didn't squeeze back either. The food arrived. We ate in near silence. And I realized something. This dinner wasn't the resolution. It was just the beginning of Emma figuring out who she actually wanted to be. Emma didn't call for 3 days. I gave her space, focused on work. Actual work. The freelance projects that kept my cover intact, and the investment portfolio that funded everything else. Vincent checked in twice. Judith sent quarterly reports. Life continued. On the 4th day, Emma texted, "Can we meet? Your place. When? Now if possible. Come over." She arrived 30 minutes later looking exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back messily. She'd been thinking hard about something. I let her in, offered coffee. She declined. We sat on opposite ends of my worn couch in my modest apartment that suddenly felt like a prop in a play. I talked to my mom, she started. Told her everything. She was shocked. Then she got quiet and said something I didn't expect. I waited. She said my dad came from nothing. Worked 3 jobs through college. Built his first company in a garage. She said he used to be the guy in the old car with big dreams. Emma looked at me. Somewhere along the way, he forgot what that felt like. Success changes people. It shouldn't change them that much. She twisted her engagement ring absently. I've been thinking about us. About what you did and why you did it. And you saved my father's company anonymously. Stayed quiet for 3 years. Never used it for leverage, never asked for recognition. You could have told me who you were the second we started dating, but you didn't. I wanted you to love me, not my bank account. I get that now. But you also tested me. When my dad offered you money, you told me about it to see how I'd react. And I hesitated. I defended you, but not strongly enough. She was sharper than I'd given her credit for. You noticed that. Of course I noticed. You pulled back after that conversation. Got distant. I thought it was anger, but it was disappointment. She met my eyes. You needed to know if I'd choose you over my family's approval. And I didn't pass that test, did I? You were honest. That counts. But it's not enough. She slid the ring off her finger, held it in her palm. I love you. I think I genuinely do. But I also love the comfort of my family's world. The security, the predictability. And when those two things conflicted, I chose wrong. My chest tightened. Emma Dash. Let me finish. Her voice was steady now. You deserve someone who doesn't hesitate, who stands firm without looking back. Someone who sees you, not just the version that fits conveniently into their life. She placed the ring on the coffee table between us. I'm not that person yet. Maybe I will be someday. But right now, I'd do it again. I'd hesitate again. And that's not fair to you. The silence stretched. You're ending this, I said quietly. I'm being honest. Like you were honest with my dad. Like you've been honest this whole time, even when it was hard. She wiped her eyes. You were right to test me. And I failed. Not because I don't love you, but because I'm not strong enough to love you the way you deserve. I picked up the ring, turned it over in my hand. Your father apologized. Genuinely. That took courage. He called me yesterday, talked for an hour, said he'd been so focused on protecting me from struggle that he forgot struggle is what builds character. She smiled sadly. He respects you now, probably more than he's ever respected anyone. But that doesn't change how you feel. No, it doesn't. She stood. I need time to figure out who I am outside of my family's expectations, to decide what I actually value versus what I was taught to value. And I can't do that while we're together because I'll just keep trying to make everyone happy instead of being honest. I stood too. For what it's worth, this took more guts than staying would have. I learned from watching you. She moved toward the door, paused. Will you keep your stake in the company? Yes. It's a good investment. And your father earned my respect today by admitting he was wrong. What about us? I don't know. Maybe someday, if you figure out who you are. But I'm not waiting around hoping you'll change. She nodded. That's fair. At the door, she turned back one more time. Thank you for teaching me something important. That appearances aren't everything. That quiet strength matters more than loud confidence. And that real love means standing firm, even when it's uncomfortable. You'll find someone worth standing firm for. Maybe. But I'll always know I had someone worth standing firm for and chose comfort instead. She left. I stood in the doorway watching her walk to her car, drive away. The ring sat on my coffee table catching afternoon light. She'd done the right thing. We both knew it. Sometimes the hardest part isn't ending something broken. It's ending something that could have worked if both people were ready at the same time. We weren't ready. Maybe we never would be. And that was okay. 6 months later, I sold my 40% stake in Stewart Tech for $23 million. The company had grown substantially. New contracts, expanded operations, solid leadership. Mr. Stewart had genuinely learned from his mistakes, became the kind of CEO who valued substance over appearances. We met one last time to finalize the sale. In his office, signing paperwork with Vincent present. You're sure about this? Mr. Stewart asked. The company's trajectory is strong. I'm sure. Time to invest elsewhere. He nodded, signed the final page. Emma asks about you sometimes. How is she? Working at a nonprofit. Teaching digital literacy to underserved communities. Living in a studio apartment she pays for herself. Says she's figuring out who she is without our money cushioning everything. Good for her. She's different now. Stronger. More genuine. He paused. You changed both of us, you know. Taught us some expensive lessons about humility and assumptions. Those lessons were already there. I just made them impossible to ignore. We shook hands. Professional. Respectful. The man who tried to buy me off 6 months ago now understood exactly what he'd almost lost. I left that building for the last time, 23 million richer and genuinely satisfied. 3 weeks later, I was at a coffee shop working on a new client's website when someone sat across from me. I looked up. Emma. She looked different. Lighter somehow. Hair shorter, wearing jeans and a plain sweater. No designer labels, no pretense. Hi, she said. Hi. I heard you sold your stake. Congratulations. Thank you. I heard you're working at a nonprofit. Yeah. Turns out I'm good at teaching people technology basics. Who knew? She smiled. I'm paying my own rent now. Driving a 10-year-old sedan. My parents think I've lost my mind. Have you? No. I think I've finally found it. She gestured at my laptop. Still doing freelance work? Some. Also started a new investment fund. Helping early-stage founders who remind me of your dad. Brilliant ideas, terrible execution, Needs someone who believes in them. That's perfect for you. We talked for 20 minutes. Easy, natural. No tension. Just two people who'd learned hard lessons and come out better for it. Before she left, she said, I'm not asking for anything, but I wanted you to know I finally understand what you were trying to teach me. About standing firm. About knowing who you are when nobody's watching. I can see that. Maybe someday, when I'm actually the person I'm trying to become, we could try coffee again. I thought about it. Maybe. But I'm not waiting around. Life's too short. I know. That's why I'm not asking you to. She stood, picked up her bag. Take care of yourself. You too. She walked out. I watched her go, then turned back to my laptop. The story was finished. No dramatic reunion. No reconciliation. No fairy tale ending. Just two people who'd taught each other important lessons and moved forward separately, carrying those lessons into whatever came next. Sometimes that's the best ending you can ask for. I went back to work, designing websites and building fortunes, exactly the way I wanted to live. Quiet, purposeful, authentic, and completely satisfied with how it all turned out.